Battlefield 3, arguably one of the best infantry shooters in the Battlefield franchise, and to date, it's still the most successful in terms of sales. 5 years on, and there are still plenty of servers running this game on the most popular map and mode combinations, and one of those is Noshar Kanal's TDM. This experience, the movement, the gunplay, the streaks, the excitement, was what I was reminded of when I was playing Battlefield 1. But now, having gone back to Battlefield 3 after the beta has ended, that link isn't so clear. But what is clear is that Battlefield 1 is a massive improvement over other games in the franchise, and it even fixes issues that I wasn't aware existed. I mentioned this on Twitter last week, and Alex Grondal, the senior producer for Battlefield 1, one of the main men when it comes to development of this game, asked me what I thought the key differences were between Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 1. And at the point when he asked me, I wasn't 100% clear. All I knew is that the link that I thought was there between the two didn't seem to exist in the same way. So I had to think about it, and I came up with these three topics. You got the fluidity, the gunplay, and the hit detection. At a high level, I think these were the biggest links and gaps between the two games, but unfortunately I couldn't go into too much detail with him because Twitter is just limited to 140 characters, and that's hardly the best place to have a proper conversation. So that's why this video exists, and I want to get your opinions on these topics as well, so make sure you leave your comments down below today. First up, let's talk about that fluidity. Where I see the biggest similarities and improvements are in the movement system. Now, Battlefield 3 was a very fast infantry shooter. Bunny hopping pushes you further forward, running with your knife out and jumping, sneaking round corners. Hallmarks of the game, basically. String all those movements together, and it felt like a very slick game. Vaulting over cover, sprinting around, switching weapons, lobbing grenades. It all felt like one big movement chain that just kept on going. That was until I played Battlefield 1. The game improves on what Battlefield 3 tried to do, and this is one of the first issues that I didn't realise was there until I went back. Battlefield 1 introduces new mechanics like sliding into cover, pull-ups over larger cover, contextual leaning. They've brought that in from Battlefield 4, where your player will hide behind cover until you aim down sight. These small changes cover over little gaps that Battlefield 3 sometimes had. Now, going back made me realise that Battlefield 3's movement system was far from perfect. You get stuck on cover, not being able to vault up and away and perhaps flank an enemy. Things that I really took for granted in Battlefield 1, those things not being present in Battlefield 3, they suddenly became very noticeable omissions. Transitions between sprinting, jumping, walk, and weapon animations feels very precise in Battlefield 1. No discernible gap, really, between all of those actions. Well, that, and besides the obvious issues in the beta, where you get stuck on small walls, every Frostbite game seems to have that problem, but DICE are committed to trying to fix that. Alan Kurtz tweeted out that they're working on that all the way up until the release. In Battlefield 3, there are moments where you want to do something and it just won't happen. You want to make it into cover, but it's a little way off. Your choices are sprint across an open field and make yourself a large target, or crouch down and slowly move into the cover, where you still make yourself a massive target. Battlefield 1 combines that together, where you sprint, hit crouch, and you will slide into the cover, keeping that fast movement, but making yourself less of a target. It's a situation that technically didn't cause a big issue in gameplay. In Battlefield 1, they've solved that issue. A small gap plugged in the movement that technically you wouldn't even have realised was there in Battlefield 3, but with the advancements of Battlefield 1, it's very clear. Next, I want to talk about the gunplay and the gunfights. Now, in Battlefield 3, it was one of the most satisfying experiences at the time. The slick movement of the guns pulling up out of the sprint animation, the majority of the time that was met with a really close gunfight. The feedback from the UI when you're hitting the target or when you're being hit was really rich and satisfying, whether that was slightly damage-based hit markers or the flinching and blood effects on your player when you were taking damage. Not only that, but with practice you could start to learn, without even thinking, how many bullets you'd need at a certain range to kill somebody. And before even the kill confirmation would appear on the UI, you're turning away and reloading for the next battle. That was some really good gunplay, and it led to some really good gunfights. You needed to learn the weapon strengths and weaknesses to really take full advantage of them. Enter Battlefield 1 and you get a completely different system. It does incorporate the improved damage-based hit marker system from Battlefield 4, along with coloured hit markers and the return of a true headshot sound. The last time we saw that was in Bad Company 2. Tie that in with specific engagement ranges for all weapon classes, a new way to balance them actually, and you've got a very, very different recipe. Now sure, this new engagement range system will result in more clear gunfights. If you choose to enter one with another player, then you're going to know in your head with some sort of certainty who's going to win. Let's say you come up against an assault player in extreme close quarters and you're holding a medic semi-auto rifle, then 9 times out of 10 that assault player is going to win. In Battlefield 3, the lines between classes were much more blurred, with all-kit weapons like shotguns and PDWs. And although at the time those shared weapons were cool, as different classes could turn up unexpectedly and present a challenge to you, it added a further layer of balancing, needing to keep things fair. Battlefield 1 doesn't have that mechanic, and that makes gunfights much more skill-based, where a skill player might be able to win, but the majority of the time whoever is better equipped will come out on top. And the last point, the hit registration. We all know in Battlefield 3 that game had some rather spongy hit detection, where half the bullets you fired sometimes didn't register with the server and they didn't get sent back to the other clients. Battlefield 4 launched with similar issues, but cleared that up recently with the high tick rate servers, but people still didn't feel that it was perfect. Battlefield 1 is so much better, and I'm not just pulling this opinion out of my arse here and just, going on a positive streak for the game. Battle Nonsense, another Battlefield YouTuber, did some tests with the Battlefield 1 beta and then compared those results to the most recent build of Battlefield 4 using 60Hz servers. He found that in the Battlefield 1 beta for gunfire, the game offers the best netcode performance that he's ever tested for, and that includes games like CSGO, Overwatch, and Black Ops 3. For movement, jumping and strafing around, he found that the game sits on par with Battlefield 4 and Overwatch, offering a similar experience there. He did also find that the game can suffer from incomplete data processing by the server, which might be responsible for random points during the round where everything just stops and the game hangs for a little bit. This improved netcode overall means the game feels more responsive and true to the actions that you're making with your mouse or controller. Battlefield 3, now 5 years old, is almost ancient in terms of its data processing over the network, and it's very clear that you can land bullets on a target, even enough to kill someone, and they can just run away still with full health or with sometimes a little bit reduced health. With this gulf in processing between the two games, it's now very easy to see why people got so frustrated with the netcode in previous Battlefield games. And if Battlefield 3 was to launch now, it would get slammed with people complaining that it didn't function properly. The netcode issues in the beta for Battlefield 1 are being worked on, by the way. It is a beta after all, and it was put out to the public for them to find bugs. So my trip back to Battlefield 3, although it was still very, very enjoyable, I do love me a bit of Noshar TDM. It wasn't as rosy as I thought it was going to be. It's very clear that the faster paced gameplay overall in Battlefield 1 is a pull more from Battlefield 3 than any other game that's come before it, but by far and away is Battlefield 1 the better performing title out of the two. As I mentioned, gaps have been plugged that I didn't even realise were there, and that makes for a much better experience. Clearly the devs are doing a great job if they're fixing issues that we didn't even realise were there in the first place. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. I'll be down there reading as many as I can. But until next time, my name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.